The first gunshot shattered the chandelier. Glass exploded across the ballroom in a rain of diamonds and screams. Alina Mensa did not flinch. She was already running, bare feet slipping against polished marble, lungs burning, emerald silk dress torn at the thigh. She shoved through a crowd of diplomats and socialites as armed men flooded the Lagos hotel from every entrance. Somebody screamed her husband's name. Commissioner David Adebayo, national hero, anti-trafficking task force commander, the man currently standing on the stage with blood on his cufflinks. Alina saw it. Nobody else did. Because nobody else was close enough to see the way his expression changed after the shooting started. Not fear, not shock, recognition, like he had been expecting this. Their eyes met across the ballroom, and in that terrible instant, Alina understood something that hollowed her from the inside out. The attack was not a surprise. It was a cleanup. David took one slow step toward her, then another. The men with rifles were not aiming at the politicians. They were aiming at her. "Run," somebody shouted. Alina already was. She darted through the side corridor just as bullets tore into the wall behind her. The impact sent plaster into her hair. She bit back a cry and sprinted toward the emergency staircase, one hand gripping the small silver flash drive hidden beneath the fabric lining of her dress. The drive that contained everything. Names, bank accounts, shipping routes, proof. 3 years of evidence proving that Commissioner David Adebayo, celebrated protector of women and children, was running the largest trafficking network on the West African coast. And now he knew she had it. The stairwell door slammed behind her. Darkness, the pounding of footsteps above. Alina forced herself downward, breath ragged. Her left ankle screamed with every step. David had twisted it 2 nights ago when she tried to leave the house without permission. He had smiled while doing it. "You embarrass me when you act difficult," he had told her. The memory nearly made her miss the final step. She caught herself against the railing. Below her, in the underground parking garage, engines roared. Black SUVs. More men. She spun around. Wrong direction. Her phone vibrated in her hand. One message. Unknown number. "You have 10 seconds before they reach level 2. Alina froze. Another message appeared. "If you want to live, answer your phone." The call came instantly. Her hands shook as she answered. "Who is this?" A man's voice filled her ear. Calm. Deep. Cold enough to cut glass. "Turn around." She did. At the far end of the stairwell stood a tall man in a black coat, one hand holding a phone to his ear, the other resting loosely in his pocket. Behind him, 2 armed men lay unconscious against the concrete wall. The stranger looked at her like he had already calculated every possible outcome of this night and rejected most of them. "Are you Alina Mensa?" She swallowed. "Yes." "Do you still have the drive?" Her fingers tightened around the hidden pocket in her dress. "Who are you?" The man's gaze flicked upward toward the sound of approaching footsteps. "The only reason you are still alive." Then the stairwell door burst open. 3 armed men charged downward. Everything happened at once. The stranger moved with terrifying precision. 1 shot. 2. 3. Clean. Efficient. Silent except for the suppressed crack of gunfire. The men collapsed before Alina fully processed what she was seeing. The stranger lowered the weapon. "Come with me," he said. She should have been terrified. Instead, she followed him. His name was Kang Min-jun. In Seoul, they called him the Ghost Director. Nobody knew exactly how much of the global shipping industry he controlled because nobody could trace where his legal businesses ended and his criminal empire began. Luxury ports, private military contracts, offshore logistics. Entire governments owed him favors they prayed he would never collect. He was 39 years old, and he had spent the last 11 months investigating Commissioner David Adebayo, not because he cared about justice, because David had stolen from him. Human cargo intercepted without permission, missing money, compromised routes. Min-jun did not forgive theft, especially from men arrogant enough to hide behind badges. He led Alina through a maintenance corridor beneath the hotel while chaos exploded above them. She struggled to keep pace. "Who sent you?" she demanded. "Nobody." "Then why are you helping me?" "Because your husband just tried to kill you in a ballroom full of witnesses." That answer should not have made her chest ache, but it did. They reached a service exit. Rain hammered the city. A black sedan waited in the alley with its engine running. The driver stepped out immediately. "Sir." Min-jun opened the back door. "Get inside." Alina hesitated. You don't even know what's on this drive. Min-jun looked at her. You think I crossed a ballroom under sniper fire without already knowing? Her stomach dropped. He knew. Not pieces. Everything. That realization should have sent her running. Instead, exhaustion won. She slid into the car. The moment the doors locked, the adrenaline began to collapse inside her body. Her hands would not stop shaking. Her breathing turned uneven. Min-jun noticed immediately. Look at me, he said. She tried. Breathe slower. I can't. Yes, you can. The authority in his voice cut through the panic just enough for her to obey. Inhale. Exhale. Again. Outside, Lagos blurred past in streaks of rain and headlights. Inside the car, silence settled. Min-jun removed his coat and handed it to her without comment. Only then did she realize she was freezing. By the time they reached the penthouse overlooking Victoria Island, it was almost 3 in the morning. The apartment was all glass and shadows, an impossible wealth. Alina stood near the entrance dripping rainwater onto imported marble while Min-jun spoke quietly in Korean to the man waiting by the elevator. The other man glanced at her once. Not with curiosity, with concern. That unsettled her more than anything. Min-jun turned back toward her. Doctor is on the way. I'm fine. You are bleeding through your dress. She looked down. Blood darkened the fabric near her ribs. She had not even noticed. The doctor arrived 20 minutes later. Female, middle-aged, efficient, 3 cracked ribs, bruising across her back, an older fracture in her wrist that had healed badly. The doctor's mouth tightened as she examined her. How long has your husband been hurting you? Alina stared at the ceiling. Long enough. Min-jun stood near the window during the examination, hands behind his back, expression unreadable. But the air around him changed. Sharper, colder, like violence had quietly entered the room and taken a seat. After the doctor left, Alina sat alone in the guest bedroom wrapped in a blanket that probably cost more than her first car. Min-jun knocked once before entering. He held out a glass of water. Take this. She accepted it carefully. Thank you. He nodded once. Then he reached into his pocket and placed a photograph on the bed beside her. Alina's blood turned to ice. It was her younger sister, Nadia, walking into a university building that morning. You had her followed, Alina whispered. No. Then how? Because your husband did. Min-jun's eyes met hers. Commissioner Adebayo planned to move her out of the country tomorrow morning if he failed to recover the drive tonight. The room tilted. No. We intercepted the extraction team 40 minutes ago, Min-jun continued calmly. Your sister is safe. Alina could barely breathe. David had promised. David had sworn he would never involve Nadia. The foolishness of believing him hit her so hard she nearly laughed. Instead, she covered her mouth with trembling fingers. Min-jun watched her carefully. You need sleep. She looked up sharply. What happens now? Now, he said, we dismantle your husband piece by piece. The following morning, Alina woke to piano music. Soft, melancholic, beautiful. For one disoriented second, she thought she was dreaming. Then she followed the sound. Min-jun sat alone in the penthouse living room beside a black grand piano, sleeves rolled to his forearms, long fingers moving across the keys with unexpected gentleness. He stopped when he noticed her. You play. Used to. She stared at him. Men like you don't usually admit to having hobbies. A faint shadow crossed his mouth. Men like me are usually not asked. That almost sounded like humor. Almost. Over the next 10 days, Alina learned the terrifying scope of the world surrounding Kang Min-jun. Nothing in his life happened accidentally. Every guard placement, every phone call, every business acquisition, every carefully controlled expression. He moved through the world like a man permanently at war. And yet somehow, within that ruthless machinery, he made space for her. He had clothes brought in exactly her size. He relocated Nadia to a secure apartment without being asked. He assigned financial analysts to trace David's offshore accounts. He even replaced her shattered phone with one containing every contact she had lost over the years. Except David. That number had been deleted. One evening, she found Min-jun standing alone on the balcony overlooking the city. You hate him, she said quietly. Yes, because he stole from you. Min-jun was silent for a moment. Then he answered, because men who hurt women behind closed doors while pretending to protect them disgust me. The honesty of it caught her off guard. She studied his profile in the city light. There were old scars along his knuckles, a faint one near his throat. Pain recognized pain. Before she could stop herself, she asked, "Who hurt you?" Something unreadable moved through his face. Nobody who survived it. That answer should have frightened her. Instead, it made her chest tighten. The first plot twist arrived on a Tuesday night. Min Jun's head of security entered the penthouse with blood on his sleeve. "Sir." Min Jun looked up instantly. "What happened?" "The bank manager is dead." Alina froze. The bank manager handled David's offshore transfers. "Suicide," the guard continued carefully. But the scene was staged. Min Jun stood slowly. "And?" The security guard swallowed. "Before he died, he transferred $20 million into an account under Mrs. Adebayo's name." Silence. Alina stared at them. "What?" Min Jun's eyes narrowed slightly. "Someone is framing you." Within the hour, every major news station in Nigeria was broadcasting the same headline. "Commissioner's missing wife linked to international money laundering scheme." Alina watched the screen in horror. David's face appeared moments later. Grieving. Controlled. Perfect. "If my wife has been manipulated by dangerous individuals," he told reporters solemnly, "I pray she comes home safely." Alina nearly threw the remote through the television. Min Jun took it gently from her hand. "This changes nothing. It changes everything." "No." His voice sharpened slightly. "It means he is desperate." That night Alina could not sleep. At 2 in the morning, she wandered into the kitchen and found Min Jun already there, sitting alone in the dark with a glass of whiskey untouched beside him. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "Neither could you." A quiet pause. Then she asked the question that had been haunting her for days. "Why are you really helping me?" Min Jun leaned back slowly. "Because 10 years ago, my younger sister married a man exactly like your husband." Alina went still. He continued without looking at her. "By the time I realized how bad it was, she was dead." The room seemed to lose oxygen. Min Jun's expression remained calm. Too calm. "I built half my empire hunting men who believed power entitled them to cruelty." Alina understood then. This was not business anymore. This was personal. Deeply. Dangerously. And somewhere in the middle of grief and fury and long nights inside a penthouse above Lagos, something equally dangerous began growing between them. Not suddenly. Not recklessly. Slowly. Like two wounded people recognizing the shape of survival inside each other. The second plot twist arrived 3 days later. Alina opened the encrypted files from the flash drive expecting more evidence against David. Instead, she found photographs. Hundreds of them. Of her. Sleeping. Shopping. Playing piano. Crying inside her own car. Every movement documented for years. At the bottom of the folder sat a single audio file. She pressed play and heard her own father's voice. Alina dropped the laptop so fast it nearly shattered against the marble floor. "No." Her father's voice continued from the speakers. "If anything happens to me, give the files to Alina. Not David. Never David." The recording crackled. Then another voice entered. Her father's business partner. "We should go to the police." "You don't understand," her father whispered harshly. "David owns half the police force already." Alina stumbled backward. Her father had died in a car accident 4 years earlier. Except suddenly, it did not sound like an accident at all. Min Jun took the laptop carefully. There are more files. She could barely hear him over the roaring in her ears. "Open them." He did. The documents that followed rewrote her entire understanding of her life. Her father had discovered David's trafficking operation years before Alina married him. David approached the family pretending to investigate corruption inside the ports. He gained their trust, their access. Eventually, he gained Alina. The marriage had never been love. It had been containment. David married the daughter of the only man who possessed evidence capable of destroying him. And when her father threatened exposure, he died 3 weeks later. Alina stopped breathing for a second. "I married my father's killer." Min Jun closed the laptop slowly. "Yes." The words shattered something inside her. For several minutes, she could not speak. Then rage arrived. Cold. Clean. Absolute. She looked up at Min Jun. "Help me destroy him." Something dangerous flickered behind his eyes. "I already planned to." The next 48 hours became war. Min Jun's network moved across Lagos with surgical precision. Financial records vanished from private servers before David's people could erase them. Witnesses were relocated. Encrypted backups were distributed internationally. 3 senior officers resigned within one night after anonymous evidence reached the press. And through all of it, Alina stayed beside Min Jun. Not hidden, not trembling, learning. He taught her how power operated behind closed doors, how fear controlled institutions, how predators relied on silence more than violence. And slowly, he taught her how to stop being afraid of her own voice. The gala became their final move, the national security fundraiser, David's biggest public appearance of the year. Televised live. Politicians, foreign investors, press from 3 countries. Perfect. Min Jun studied the seating charts while Alina adjusted the silver gown fitted perfectly against her skin. Nervous, he asked. Terrified. Good. She blinked. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. He stepped closer then, close enough for her to feel the quiet gravity he carried everywhere. But fear is not the same thing as weakness. The words settled deep inside her. Before leaving, he adjusted the diamond bracelet around her wrist. His fingers lingered for half a second. You look dangerous tonight, he said quietly. For the first time in years, Alina smiled without forcing it. At the gala, David saw her the moment she entered. Shock cracked his composure instantly. Then fury. Then calculation. Alina walked past him without slowing. The cameras followed automatically. Missing commissioner's wife returns after international scandal. The headlines were practically writing themselves. David intercepted her near the ballroom entrance. You stupid woman, he hissed through a smile meant for cameras. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes. Her calmness unsettled him. I know exactly what you've done. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Where's the drive? She leaned slightly closer. Everywhere. For the first time since she met him, Commissioner David Adebayo looked afraid. The fundraiser began. Speeches, champagne, applause. Then the screens changed. Mid-speech, the projector behind the stage flickered violently. David turned. Bank records flooded the massive display. Photographs, shipping manifests, victim statements, audio recordings, including one unmistakable file. David ordering her father's death. The ballroom went silent. Absolute silence. Then chaos detonated. Reporters surged forward. Politicians shouted. Security teams reached for weapons. And Alina walked calmly onto the stage. Her voice never shook. For years, she said into the microphone, this man called himself a protector while selling women through the ports he claimed to defend. David lunged toward her. Min Jun appeared between them instantly. The movement was so fast half the room missed it. 1 second David was charging forward. The next he was face down against the marble floor with Min Jun's hand locked against the back of his neck. The ghost director finally looked directly at him. You should have stayed away from her. Police stormed the ballroom minutes later. Not David's people. International investigators. The ones Min Jun had secretly contacted weeks earlier. David was arrested in front of every camera in the country. As officers dragged him away, he twisted violently toward Alina. You think you won? She held his gaze. No. Her voice was ice. I survived. That was worse. 3 months later, the trials began. Dozens of arrests followed. Entire trafficking routes collapsed. And every night after the hearings, Alina returned to the penthouse overlooking the ocean where Kong Min Jun waited with untouched whiskey and silent understanding. One rainy evening, she found him standing by the piano. You never play anymore, she said softly. He glanced at her. Neither did you. Fair. A quiet smile touched his mouth. Rare. Real. She crossed the room slowly. You saved my life. No. His gaze held her steadily. You saved your own life. I just opened the door. Emotion rose suddenly in her throat. Before she could overthink it, she reached for him. Min Jun went still the moment her hands touched his face. Not because he disliked it. Because men like him were rarely touched gently. Thank you, she whispered. Something inside him broke quietly. He kissed her like a man trying very hard not to. Slow, careful, reverent enough to hurt. Months later, when the final convictions came down and the city finally stopped whispering her name with pity, Alina stood barefoot in the apartment kitchen watching sunrise spill gold across the ocean. Min Jun entered wearing rolled sleeves and reading glasses she suspected nobody else in the world had ever seen. Coffee, he asked. Always. He handed her a mug. Their fingers brushed. Simple, ordinary, precious. Outside, Lagos woke slowly beneath the morning light. Inside, the woman who once ran barefoot through gunfire stood safe beside the man who answered the disaster that destroyed her life and somehow became the reason she rebuilt it. Not every empire was made from fear. Some were built quietly, with survival. with truth, with two broken people choosing, every day afterward, to stay. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more videos like this. We'll see you on the next one.